we got stuck with that create React app one, fixed it. So that was a lag. So in this today's topic, we'll try to discuss about form handling and use effect hook. In the last class, we talked about use state hook and the different scenarios, how do you use an use state hook. Today we are going to talk on the form handling and use effect. You know, for your project also, use effect is one of the most important hook. Alright. So first let me start with an form handling. So whenever you are doing, in the inventory project which we are trying to do from the scratch, there we need to update the data. That means how do you take the data? In the form of a form, HTML form. How do you take the data in the form of a form? If you need an inventory like a product name, address, what is the quantity, what is the cost of it, we take using a form. Whereas in the backend API, we used to send that as an object. Here we need to object in where? In the JSON through body. Whereas here I need to take using my form. So that's what I'm trying to do. First thing, I have created a form handling. I'm trying to show you the 3 different ways. Okay. First one is a lame way where beginners would do that way. So you see, I wanted to take, if you look into my form here, I'm trying to take 3 data, first name, last name, email. User will try to enter something over here that has to be taken to a data where it can be handled by using an use state. Because this first name, last name, email are the 3 different values the user is trying to pass. How do I take those values? With this component, where I have this component name as in form handling, the component will have its own state. How many states does it needs now? First name state, last name state, email state. I hope I'm making sense. Now, what should I do? Whatever the user enters over here, let me enter, okay, last name KMIT, email something like this. This should be taken to your, as of now I'm trying to render as is, okay. How do I take this data? To the states. So how many states I need now? 3 states. One for first name, one for last name, one for email. Alright, let me show you that part. You see this? Type equals to text, on change, set first name. What is this set first name coming from? Use state. Use state, initially everything is an empty over here. 3 states as I already talked about that. First for the first name, second for the last name and email. And I have concerned methods also declared for them. Use state returns the 2 values. One is for the way property holding and also property setting. So set first name, set last name and set email. So I have declared them. Now you look into this. On change is an event. Whatever the user is trying to type there, where I typed Bilahari over there, set that name, first name, call that target.value. I hope. Do you want me to talk more on this? We already talked in the last class also this. On change, user is trying to type something here, A, B, C. These are some changing is happening in that field. If something change is happening, please take, how do I take that? On change event. Take that event, it takes an event here, object, set first name, e.target. If you wanted to print it and please check it, it prints the name over there, the value I'm trying to take. Set first name will set the name for what? First name. Similarly, set last name I'm trying to do, set last name for the last name, set email for the email. Now, after giving all the data over here, I have all of the data now. What should I do with the data? Using the states, I holded them perfectly in my first name, last name and email. What should I do now? On clicking submit, on clicking submit, you see this, for the form, on the opening of the form, I try to create an event over here on submit, handle submit functionality. What is that handle submit functionality is trying to do? Log everything, whatever you have created. That's what I'm trying to say. First thing, in the first scenario, this is how we are trying to read each and every form element through every state. Every state is mapped, every form element is mapped with every state. I mean to say each state. Alright. So let me try to do this. Submit. Let me show my console. You see this? This is what I'm trying to print over there. Now you tell me, this has only 3 fields in my form. Now imagine when you are registering for something, for example, you are registering for our PS test, pre-FS test, it has a lot of fields there. Can I call that also a form? Now what you do there, you try to create each and every form element and create an use state for each form element. In this case only 3. Imagine there are like 50 form elements. Will you create 50 use states like this? Yes, you have to. But do you suggest this way of creating? Sometimes I may miss the naming convention, sometimes I miss the name, the variable what I declared, though you go for an proper names given for that. Sometimes there is a chance of doing that. Okay, that's a scenario. Imagine that scenario. Now think, after taking the data, what you do actually, usually you take that to some backend database and store it there. Now imagine if one of this is missed and one of this field, imagine email is an required field. You forget to pass that to the backend. Your schema does not allow there. So there is a chance of missing in one of the field. So this is the beginner way of doing. Everybody, are you all with me? Yes? So this is a lame way of creating an form handling. We do not want this one. However, collectively, whatever the data I collected, in this case only 3 data, imagine a larger data. Collectively, I need to take that back to the backend, store in the database or store in an array, whatever the requirement, as per requirement. So this is a lame way then. What is a better way to do that? By creating an object for all of them. Don't create these many use states. Don't create these many functionalities for each and everything. Alright, let me show you the better way now. This is an example 2. Let me comment out the above one. Give me a moment. Okay, before going there, what is this e.prevent default? What does this action does? You might be using a number of times this one. What is e.prevent default? What it is trying to do? Pardon? Answer something. What does prevent default functionality is doing for us? You will say that default action is prohibited. Yes or no? It stops the default action. Yes or no? No? So basically, why do we use this? Yes, it is stopping the default behavior. What is the default behavior of submitting? Submitting data to some whatever, if it is in database or if it is in list or something. I do not want immediately to submit the data, please. I have something to do. In this case, I am logging it, but imagine whatever the applications you have done before. You are not immediately taking to the database. You are trying to manipulate some data. Manipulate, for example, if I am trying to calculate the price of the 2 products, total of it, then I need to take that to the database. Imagine, here is in product 1 details, its name, and what is the size, quantity, and the price of each one. Let's assume one first product price is 100, second product quantity is 2. Second product, name of the product, its quantity is 1, its price is 200. So are you directly pushing this to the database? No. I have some field like total. Alright. For this one, the total will be 200. For this one, the total will be 100. And the total of these three, grand total, is 300. Oh, I'm sorry. So, how do you put this 200 directly to the database? No, you need to perform some calculation before putting into the database. That's what I'm trying to say. Do not directly push the data to the database, please. I have some actions to be done. In this case, I need to multiply this into this and have some data. This into this, have some data. This plus this, grand total, have some data. I have to do some reasonable operations before submitting to the database. I do not want directly to happen this. I have some actions to be done. Let me wait for it. Please do not submit. That's what the prevent default is trying to help us there. Did I make sense? Now let's go to the second example. Let me comment out this. Second example, where I do not want each thing to be done all at a time. I want it to do. Alright? See this. How many use state I have created? Only one use state, and the default, it is an object. Initializing is an object. Object can hold n number of key value pairs. So here initially my first name empty, last name empty, email as an empty. Now whatever the user sets here, form data dot first, one moment, handle change. I'm not calling any state handler to handle this. I just wanted the data to be shown here. Last name, similarly email. Now you see handle change. On change, we are calling the handle change. Whatever the change happens, that has to be done. On submit, handle submit. You see, let's see this here. Again, I'm trying to log the data here. So instead of using three different states, I'm using only one state now. Alright. Whatever, how does the data holding now? If I do not have those many states, then on each element, I'm trying to call a handle change. Whatever the data you are trying to get from there, form data, destructuring the, you see this is my form data already. Initially it is an empty, destructure it everything. What are the name coming over there? You see this name is different. This is not the first name, last name, please. This name depends on here. The key which is coming from here. You know, for every input element, you may have the ID, name, so and so. I'm trying to take the name this time, not the ID. So first name will be my key. In the last name will be my key. In the email will be my key. Whatever the, for the three things, I have only single handle change. Unlike before, set email, set first name, set last name. Three different functionalities? No. Only one functionality, handle change. For all the three, then how do you identify what is been called? Depending upon the name what you have been supplied there. You see this? Handle change. Every time e.target, in the target I have the value and the name. Name, if it is in first name come and sit into this name. The value whatever you pass there, that comes and sits into the value. So among the many properties here, I'm trying to destructure only these two properties because I'm interested only in those two. So set form data, which is an state handler one, destructure the previous data and update the new data with that concerned field name with the value whatever I have destructured here. Did I make sense, everybody? Objects. If you are clear about an object, this is more easy. No, what is it is trying to do? I passed in the name field some KMIT. This comes through the e.target. name, which is a first name. Remember the previous, down, all the way down, and the value which I am taking is an KMIT. So this will be my key, this is my value. So this key, how I am trying to get? Through the name. What is this name? One more time I will try to show. The name what I have set it here. For the first name it is first name. For the last name, last name. For email, email. That's how it is trying to come place. So it is coming from there. And what are the data previous available? Initial it was empty. Initially all of them were empty. Now you please spread operator on them, get everything and apply the new value, that is the first name should be now KMIT. Remaining names, last name will be empty, email will be empty as is. When does this comes into handy? When does the last name comes into action? When you pass the last name in the form. When you pass the email, then handle change would come, email will come and sit here, that value come and sit here. That what we are trying to destructure, spread over them and apply the newer values which we got over there. Alright, let me try to show you this one more time. Run I'm showing. So again I'm not doing much one, just logging all the data. Alright, let me run my thing over here is all form handling. Let me comment on this one. All form handling in one go. Save this. Clear. One moment. Clear previous ones. Now you see it is coming from the all form handling data. I'm passing KMIT. Alright. Submit. Do you see this? It is coming in the format of an object. Let me pass one more. This time Bilahari test. KMIT with an NGIT. This with an NGIT. Do you see that? The second one also is here. It's not been, since I'm used, I hope you are seeing this everybody. Alright, this is a better way of handling the data in one go. Instead of handling for each element in the form different states and different functionalities, this is what we suggest you. With this knowledge, I wanted this to take, okay, let me show you the other one. Show that in a table please. Instead of logging it there, I wanted that to be shown in a table. Commenting this out. The third example. So let me run this. First, let me make a call to that. Form with table. Comment out this. Form with table. Close this, reload. As of now, I did not submitted any data. Let me pass. Add to list. I'm trying to add to the list and perform map on it and show that in a table. Internally, I'm using a map array list. Sorry. I'm using an array to hold the data. From that array, I'm performing map operation and trying to render that. Let me add one more. avinagired.kmit.in. See that. Okay. So, in your real-time scenarios, if I add to the list, that will go and sit into the database, not to the list. I'm using the list data structure in this case. So let me show you my code for that. Same see, this remains as is. I'm creating one more state for this what do you call list array, that data list place. So you see this, firstly showing you the form. Form remains as is, handle change only single functionality for all the three. Add to the list, which is in button, is submitting the form, showing you the form submission. You see this. Form data, which is my data over here. First name, last name, and the form email ID. If I pass it the data, set that to the destructured, spread over the previous data and pass the complete data of the new data. Add data to the form. And set form data as is, after submitting, please notice this part, user 3, ABC, user 3 at gmail.com. Please see, look into this, add to submit. Do you see my fields it has been added to the list and my fields are empty now. This is what I'm trying to do here. Set form data, first name to the empty, last name to the empty, email to the empty. Alright? And I have one condition over here. If anything I'm missing, please say that all fields are required. You see, that's what I'm trying to do here. If everything is available only, then take that to the list and after adding to the list, set the form data to the empty. And if any one of this has been missed, this condition is going to be false. And line 143. So alert all fields required. Do you see all fields required? I don't know how many of you got this. Is form handling is clear, everybody? Firstly, what we done in the example 1, we try to create an use state for each form element. In our case, we have the 3 form elements, first name, last name, and the email. We have created 3 different states for that, 3 different handlers for that, and 1 for form handling. In the second example, why did we go for the second scenario? Because imagine if there are 50 fields in the form, I cannot write 50 use states, 50 data handlers, and 1 form handling. So we want that to be done in one go. So second way, we have done that way. Right? Let me show you one more time that one. We have only 1 handle change for all the fields, 1 use state for all the fields, but this time in the use state, the initial value is all the fields with their empty values. So only 1 use state, only 1 handler for all the data, and only 1 handle submit for all the data. Only 3 things. Whereas in the previous example, it was many. Right? The same data, what did I do this time? The third example, I tried to put that in a table. What did I do in the first and second scenarios? I tried to log in the console. I don't want that to happen. That is immediately logging. What did I do in the third scenario? What are the data you are trying to pass over here? I want that to be added to show that in the table. So to do that, I need some data structure to hold all the 3 things. So what did I do? I used the arrays to hold all the 3 datas, and through the array, I'm trying to map, array.map, and created a table for that and rendering that. All the 3 scenarios clear, everybody? Now can you handle the data when you give some inventory to you? Can you add up to your database now? In this case, I added to the list. Can you add up to the database? What do you do there? You try to give the URL Axios to that. I'll talk about an Axios in a moment. You try to pass the route what you do for pushing the data, posting the data, you call that and pass this data. Are you all on the same page, everybody? Does it make sense? Yes? Anything to be repeated? First, I shown you the lame way of creating. Second one, optimized way. The third one, I try to add up one more there. I wanted the same data. Instead of logging, I wanted to show that in a table. Let me show you the table data. I mean, how did I map it? Since you have done ample of time, I am not showing that one. If there are greater than 0 length, then only map it. You see, data list dot map, get them here. Map functionality on an array. My list is over here is a data list. Yes or no? Don't worry, I am not asking you to do this. Alright then. Any questions so far on the form handling? Because most of the times in our application you are trying to use some forms. Any confusion in why did I used only one use state? Why did I used only one handler for data? No confusion? Alright then. Let me go. Let me take the second one as I promised, use effect. Okay, one of the important hook please. I have everything handy for you instead of typing here. Okay, what is an use effect? Since most of you are done, what is use effect? I already showing something there. Something comes into your mind, use effect is used for handling the side effects. What do you mean by side effects? Is it something like doing some, I'm doing something but it is doing something wrong with the application or what? You know, generally the side effects, you mean like if I eat some tablet that has some side effects, like it may form me some acne on the face or something like that. Is it what it is related here? No. Use effect usually used, yes, that word is correct, yeah, to handle the side effects. What do you mean by side effects here is, if you have to interact with some external data or external world apart from that component, then you have to go for an use effect. Let me put it in this way. Whenever you create a class in Java, whenever you create an object, for example, my class is a test t equals to new test. New test would call the constructor by default. Yes or no? What actually we do in the constructors? We try to initialize the default values for the instance variables what we have created there. Yes or no? Similarly, I did not call it explicitly. When the object is created, the constructor implicitly gets called and assigns some value to me. That's how the int default value 0, float 0.0f. That's how the constructor is taking care of everything over there. Similarly, it is also another way of creating the default values if you have to talk to the external world. Alright, whenever external world and get the data initially. For example, I have to render some codes, or else again the inventory or the student example which you have done already, show the students or show the inventory so far. If you are loading it for the first time, it has to show something on the home page. What is the data of the inventory, data of the student? Do you have to explicitly make a call? What do you suggest? Do you have to make it explicitly call to the database and get it loaded, or I want that to be implicitly loaded when it is been asked for? What do you suggest? You will say implicitly load the data. Later let me decide to delete or update or add the new data. Let me decide that later. So to do something implicitly, if you have to talk to the external resources, that can be any HTTPS, that can be any Mongo, I mean database thing, that can be any data structure like before I used over here, list, array, that can be data can be from anywhere. If you want that to be done implicitly, then use effect. It's exactly similar to the constructor in the other programming languages. Are you all with me, everybody? Let me show you the different scenarios. How come use effect is helping us? Any questions so far? Is use effect clear to you all? Yes? This way? All right. So syntax would be use effect takes an callback function and returns something. Now you see here dependencies. When all it tries to call implicitly, for example, initial value of an int x is 0. When the x equal to 10, which you do in the main function, that has to update it. Then after calls, if you log on it, system.out.println, it should show up the 10, not the 0. So something has changed. How do I do that? By using these dependencies. So please recall this use effect, reload out all the resources I have called here. If something changes whatever I list in these dependencies. If it doesn't change anything, if it is an old data, don't recall it. Unnecessary you're calling it. That's what the dependency is here. Alright? So let's take a simple example for that. We already seen this set count, counter application. Alright? Now you see this. The first one, what is this name? Example functional component. In the functional component, my use state, initial value is the 0. Use effect, let me call that later. You see this, you clicked so and so times. I did not click anything. I have a button over here. If I click on it, I need to update my counter. So let me show you this one. My component name is example functional component. Comment out this. Example functional component. Because why do I need this here? Because this is a functional component. I mean, use effect, all the hooks are designed such a way that it has to be used in functional components only. Class components, no. By default, class components has its own life cycle, which all does for itself. I mean, you did not call it explicitly. Whereas in this case, functional component, we want the behavior of the class components to be taken to this. So we all uses the hooks here. So let me show you my thing, one moment. Not defined. Give me a moment. Okay. You know this hello is coming from my H1. Let me comment on that one. All right. Okay. You see this? You clicked 0 times. Perfect. Now you see where is this 0 coming from? By default value. Now let me do something. Click me. You see this? Something has updated in the DOM. I'm trying to pop something, component is being removed. That means the component with 0 value that is been gone, new component that re-rendered. Are you all with me? What does it re-rendering? 0 to the 1. That means my DOM got updated. It got re-rendered. So how do I confirm that? That's what I'm trying to say. This is, you see this, my use effect here. I have taken the very basic example. You see this document.title, clicked these many times. I think I forgot to show you that one also. You see this one? I don't know how many of you can see this cannot zoom in this, right? My title is clicked one time here. Or else let me do one thing, reload my page. You see my title over here isn't clicked 0 times. Okay, I'm clicking this, something got updated. What I'm trying to do, I'm update this value, along with this, I'm trying to update my title here. Clicked one time, so I'm sorry I cannot zoom that more. I can zoom the data but not the title over here. This isn't clicked one time. Let me try. Can you see it now? Clicked one time. My title isn't clicked one time. Let me do one more time. Click me. Component is being removed because there is some update in the DOM. This is 2 times. You see here, clicked 2 times. I'm updating 2 things on the body as well as my title. Something changes, then try to use this one place. I don't know where. Yeah. Let's go back to the code. You see, runs after every re-render, use effect. So what is my dependency there? If my count value changes, then change the title, change the alert also. Change the alert in the sense, give some alert. Everybody, are you all with me? If the count does not changes, keep as is. What is my dependency here? Count. Is this syntax clear? Use effect. This is very basic thing. What actually you will do in your project is, if something changes in your database, or if you are calling an API, if API something changes, it gets with a newer database or deletes some data, it has to call that one here. Because I cannot, if it is some data deleted, if there are 12 members in a team, one member has been dropped out, I cannot still show that name in the list. So that would be my dependency here. So it has to be implicitly made a call place. Okay, if something changes in my data here, please re-render this. Re-render in the sense, redo this task. Alright, let me take another example, data fetching. Comment out this. I'm trying to fetch the data from JSON placeholder. Typically, you will be using this way of communicating with your database, where you will be using Axios, not the fetch. Now, immediate question will be mine, what is the difference between fetch and the Axios? Please be ready to answer that one. Alright, you see this, use state, initially my data is null. Why did I make this as a null? Because while I'm getting the data from the API, let me copy this. This is my external source. There is some data here. This will be sending in a format of an object. Since it is an object, if I do not have any object, that should be null. That's what I'm passing here. So yes, let me show that title, whatever the title it is trying to show up here, the title I'm trying to print that one, please. Yeah, let me reload this one. It's almost the same title every time. So let's run this. My component name is data fetcher. Please call the data fetcher. You see this? This is the title. If something changes here, it's actually every time it is same. It is not changing. If something title changes there, this use effect would, nothing is changing. Now there is no dependency. You can write those dependency. Now you see this, if there is no data, let me give some random 11 here. It should, you see, this is the title. Till then, it is trying to give a data called loading. Let me write one more time. This time let me have the 1111, save this, reload, loading, title. There is no 1111 title in that API. Okay, let me run here also. It's an empty one. Okay, so yeah, that is how place. So now answer my question over here. I want, what is the difference between Axios and the fetch? Fetch is also trying to communicate to some other API here. In your project, you are trying to use Axios. What is the difference between those two? It's an interview question, please. Difference between Axios and fetch. Pardon? To start with, fetch is a JavaScript thing or browser thing? What if in interview they ask what is the difference between fetch and Axios? Both are used for communicating to an external resource. Is my JSON placeholder is an external resource? Yes. Can I use Axios there? Yes. Then what is, instead of fetch, can I use Axios? Yes. Then what's wrong? I mean, what is the difference? No idea. Have you ever worked with fetch or directly gone to Axios? Before doing Axios, you might have done with the fetch, right? No? Directly to Axios? Okay. First thing, fetch is a browser level functionality. It is not a JavaScript thing, browser level thing, please. Axios, fetch is coming by default within browser. Axios is not coming by default. The Axios is a module which you need to import. Before importing, you need to install it. npm I Axios. Then only you use it. That means that is an external resource. I mean that external module coming from npm. Fetch is implicitly available with the browser. Am I clear on this? Okay, let me show you one. So Axios, it's a package or library coming from an npm. You need to install it exclusively. And it is also used for an HTTP request and handling them. HTTP requests can be GET, POST and all of them, please. Alright? And it is promise based. It returns a promise, you need to handle it carefully. Alright? It supports all HTTP methods, all of them. Axios automatically transforms. This is a selling point for our Axios. This is a USP, please. This is which is not available in the fetch. You need to handle the errors. You need to parse your JSON. I mean, it returns on the object, you need to parse that one. Whereas Axios automatically transforms the JSON data. This is the USP of Axios, which is not available in Fetch. That's why we recommend you to go with an Axios. Just one step away to use it, npm I Axios. Alright? These are the other differences. Make sure that you know a couple of points, differences between them. You need to answer in the interview. Axios has inbuilt error handling thing, parsing the JSON, everything. Whereas Fetch explicitly has to be written by the programmer. Shall I move further? Third example. I already shown you this one actually. Clicking the count changes, my DOM also should change. So I used a use effect there. The other way, you can use this way also. For every second, I need to update my time. Let me run this for you. Do you see this? Don't you think every second it is trying to change? Your DOM is getting manipulated? Yes, DOM is getting manipulated. That means, imagine now, I know most of you are doing stock market also. Every second the price of a stock changes. How does it really impacting immediately in the next second? I don't know what they are using, but there comes use effect in a handy. Whatever the value change, for example, it's 337 by my watch. At 337, the value is 100 rupee 10 paisa. Immediately, after a couple of seconds, it got to 100 rupee 20 paisa. My DOM should update. How do I do that? Write that in an use effect. If the cost changes, update it. If the cost does not change, don't update it. Till then, keep it as is. Here in this case, it is something like every second the DOM is getting, the value is updating. So what is the right way of doing this? Where to put this? Should I put in the state here? No. I should do this handler in use effect. I need not call it explicitly. Implicitly it is getting called. So let me show you the code for that. Use effect. I have in some set interval time. Every time I am trying to update to the new second. In the previous value plus 1 after every 1 second, 1 millisecond. I mean to say 1000 milliseconds. So that is how please. And clear the previous value. Okay. So use effect is a hook which is used to perform the side effects of any component. These side effects is basically involved in talking to the external resources, sometimes internal also, comes into handy. This use effect is going to help a lot when there is a change in the data, please update the component. If there is no change in the component, if there is no change in the data, don't update the component. Exactly like constructor in another programming language. Implicitly called, here also implicitly called, unless the dependency changes over here, you cannot change it. Alright? So this is with an use effect, please. So with this knowledge, I Inventory again, I don't know, give me a moment. So front end for our back end, what all we done so far with. So I have started my back end, I have started my front end here, correctly communicating. You see, my route has just in rendering the data over here. What all the data I have so far, that has to be shown here. Alright, use the use effect and try to render that in a table. What if you want to create an invoice? You already done the backend part actually. Basically from the front end, you need to make a call to that backend API. That's it. This is just a phase for that. So if I click on the create invoice, it's a route I have created. You see my home page is the view invoices. What are the invoices you have here that I'm trying to show up here? Create invoice, you see create invoice like this. Customer name, if you remember, my customer name, billing address are mandatory fields from the inventory. So I'm passing the customer name here, billing address KMIT, item name something like laptop, one product, and the price is something like 50,000. Alright, add this to the add item. Click on the add item. I'm sorry. Click on the submit. Give me a moment. Click on the submit. Invoice created successfully. Clicking on it. Let me go to the view invoices. You see this? My second one is got updated. This would be your immediate exercise. After this, update and delete will be given to you, which all you have already done on the students actually. We need to complete this as well, everybody. I'm doing this again. View invoices. Home page should be the invoice. Show all the invoices. Perform use effect on it. Talk to the database. Get all the invoices. Call that API. Create invoice route should have the form here. That is the reason I have talked about the form today. Customer name, billing address, items, get those items. You see my total is trying to update accordingly. Let me give one more here. Billing address NGIT, item name something mouse, Nagred you want to order. Total 2, and each mouse cost is something like 200. You see this, my total amount is also getting updated here. This before event default is also helping is here. E.prevent default. Alright. So perform submit, that should be added, invoice added successfully. View invoices, you see this one, third one is also got added. This would be your immediate exercise, please. After this, add something to this so that you would see an update and delete here exactly like your student application. Alright? 1 or 2 minutes, we will start that exercise, please. Am I clear on what I am expecting, please? What you have created, is it got updated or not, and are you rendering it or not? That's what the test case would be. Are you doing the total also or not? That also will be checking. Okay? So let me show my front end. I have two components, invoice form, where it takes all the, let me show you the invoice form again for you. This one, create invoice, customer name, billing, items, add item button, submit button. So this is my invoice list. Invoice form, create invoice, customer name, customer billing address, all of them I need. Here I need to get more and more items. Within that, one more form where the user will be entering the item name, item quantity, item price. Depending on that, I need to calculate the other thing. So let me show you the handler for them. If I click on the submit, call to my backend API here, invoices, method is post, if response is okay, alert box, invoice created successfully, set the form data, alright. If something goes wrong, fail to create invoice. Alright. Remove item button also is there over here. You know this one. Let me add one more. If I remove this one has to be removed. That's what filtering on it. Let me check anything. How do I am getting total amount? Let me show you the total amount over here. This is where I am calculating reduce. If you remember this, we are doing from many times from the starting exercise onwards, performing reduce. Alright. Similarly, invoice list where my table is coming from, map over the data. So before going fetching, try to fetch the data using use effect, get all the elements. Alright. Fetch, I am using an await on the fetch, get the data. Since I am not using any Axios here, I am using fetch. It's my responsibility to parse that into the JSON format and do that everything. If it is successful, try to map on it and try to render everything what we have got. Alright. So yeah, this is the table. I'm not worried about the colors and all of them. Let me show you the routing part as well. On a home page, root, invoice list, on slash list also invoice list. And a form, if I click on it, it has to render the invoice form. So home page and the list is same. If you notice, yes, that is what happening. Let me remove this route here. My home page is also the same. My view invoices is also the same. Only create invoice should take to that form. That's what I have written over here. These are the buttons, alright, linked to those things. Let me log in as a teacher and start the exercise. First exercise is started. I want the same thing, please. Same thing in the sense, on the colors, the names what I have given here. Invoice management, create invoice, view invoices. And the name of this table should be the same. Only that is what we are trying to check in this exercise. This is only creating and view, please. You already have the backend application. It's time to build your front end. These are my routes, I already told you, which is missing in the description. My home page and that slash list, my path name is slash list, should render me the invoice list. This one. And create invoice, my route for the create invoice should be slash form. This one. There are only 3 routes. Home, /1, /form, which creates a form for our adding the invoice, /list, which renders all the invoices. Home and the /list should render all the invoices. Alright. And the names of my buttons should be the as is. That's why I kept this on the frozen. Create invoice, view invoices. That's all, please. First thing, what is the exercises you have practiced in pre-FS, night class and embedded learning? In the night class, we have done one full cycle of an backend and frontend on the student application. Student management, CRUD operation on adding student, reading students, updating student, deleting student. What we done in the embedded learning, similar exercise with inventory. Alright, we will give all the files. For example, student application, we will give all the backend file like server.js, which has all the routes, which has the schema of that student. Alright, are you all clear? And the front end, the components which we have developed, how do you app.js, routes, all of them will be given to you. May not be the routes, you need to decide, but the files, add student file, delete student file, update student component, components in the front end. We will give that in a zip format on your PC there. So, that is what we are trying to give you as per reference. The complete code with files, not the folders with the node modules, all of them. Only the files. So, in the backend, server.js, which has all the routes, which has a schema definition in it, and everything. In the front end, components and app.js. Are we all on the same path so far? All right. Second step. There you will be asked to create a new application. For example, I'm taking. For example, if I ask you to create invoice as your PS test application to be developed. Okay, invoice app management, invoice management. What we will give in the invoice app management? Nothing will give. We'll try to give only node modules, required modules installed for front end and the back end. It's your turn to write server.js with the reference with the student. You can take that as a reference. Okay? You have to write all the routes. You have to design the schema which is been asked in the problem statement. You have to design the front end. You have to design your own components. For reference, you can refer the student. Did I make sense? Third step, the problem statement. What are we expecting in the back end? What are we expecting in the front end? We will give one document there, either in the problem statement or in separate PDF on your desktop there. In the exercise itself. So, are you all clear on what you mean by the boilerplate there? We are giving you the sample project reference which we have done in the night class or in the embedded learning class for your reference. You have to develop a project which has been asked. The front end and the back end PDFs will be, problem statement will be given. You can take these files as a reference. If you want to copy paste, you can do there, no problem. That VS Code installation and everything, node modules required, what are required packages, we all give it to you. It's your turn to develop the project from the scratch by taking this as a reference. Any questions?